Welcome to our vibrant network of governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity leaders. We share cutting-edge insights, best practices, and innovative strategies to empower professionals in navigating the dynamic cyber threat landscape. Join Circolo de CISO to ignite resilience and data protection across industries.
Hello viewers, welcome again for another episode with Circolo de CISO, and we are continuing our discussion with Nishant Raman on what breaches have taken place in the last 6 months and what do we learn from those incidents. So to continue our discussion today, we have picked a platform which allows work management. It's a work management tool. It allows you to ideate plans, collaborate on projects, organize workflows, and track process in a visual manner. And this particular platform is nothing but Trello, right? So Trello was breached some time back. And I'm going to ask Nishant what really happened at Trello. Nishant?
So as you mentioned about the Trello, I mean, this is the web-based listing application, right? And it had so many informations in their application, and so the Trello happened, as you mentioned, it was 15 million records, right? 15 millions. You can see the impact, how many how huge it was, the data which was being put it on the dark web to sell, basically. And then the organizations came to know about this breach. So we used to keep saying this, that there is a two kind of organizations only, which is either breached or they don't know they have been breached, right? They either know about it or they don't know about it. So no organization has been, so we always in our security field, we used to say this, right? So there's only two kind of organizations. So this is what happened in this.
If I may interrupt there, right? I mean, even when you look at the zero trust principles, they say assume breach. What it means is that we need to assume that we can be breached.
Exactly.
The question which we keep asking, if not today, when? How far and how deep can you defend your network? So that's the situation or the condition every organization is in right now. Nishant, please continue.
So, and this attack was, if you go and do the research, this attack was happened due to the exposed API. The hacker have used the leverage, taken the leverages of the API, right? So it was, and actually the API process was to as a legitimate user, and they have used the feature of that legitimacy of that API feature, and the attacker have used those things to do the such attacks. So as we know, I mean, nowadays it's like business have the way we have IT involved, continuously embracing the digital technology. API is becoming the integral part, of the IT systems, ecosystems, basically. So everyone is using their internal APIs. We have organizations used to have to connect with their customers, to they pull out the data from the customers, to giving the data to the customers. We are using we started using the API. So there's a public API, there's internal APIs. So it's becoming a very difficult for the organizations to keep secure, and why this is happening, because generally people are using the API, but the two main very important part in the API nowadays, so many attacks happening on API based. And the other thing is, most of the organization is not aware even how many number of API they are using, how much they have already published to the publicly APIs, how much API they have internally integrated. Even they are not aware about it. They just keep on the base of requirement, keep on developing and implementing it. So this is two major thing is raising us such kind of concerns. So how we can go and secure our APIs? There should be a proper way of strategy. There should be a proper way of doing this. You need to make it a proper plan when you are going for something. For example, if organizations have a new projects which needs the implementation of number of APIs and all that, you should be a very well strategic and strategy and plan. Go and sit on the table, discuss what is the requirement. Is it better it's going to be publicly exposed, whether it's going to be internally, discuss and record it, and then make it plan, and then go for the actual executions of part, right? And that includes the authentication authorization part of the API. That includes the objects regularly, the vulnerabilities which you are using the software, or which software you're using, right, in the application. There is a if it is outside, in fact, the internal API also, it should be run over the SSL, so that the data is going, it should be encrypted. Use always auditing enabled on the API. Use the proper, implement the proper validations in the API, right? So these are the very important part which you should take care. And then monitoring is very important. Monitor the API users always, and keep on regular what do you call, testing of the API, security testing before to go live, and also on regular basis you should do the testings, right? So these are the factors which you should be always put it in your, when you are strategizing your API implementations, right? So this will
That's
save such kind of breaches.
absolutely. So a couple of things which I picked up from what you said, right? I mean, today, API is the way to go. So which means you have an API, you can internally integrate with any platforms, any applications, anytime, or you can externally integrate with any service provider or even with your supply chain or third parties using this API.
Exactly.
The biggest challenge, what I'm hearing from you, is the adoption is so rapid. At some point in time, people fail to keep track of the number of APIs.
Right.
So API lifecycle management is the most important aspect in this whole ecosystem, right? So you inventorize, you continuously test, continuously update, and if you have to retire any of these APIs, you need to do it promptly, right? And also you need to ensure you engage auditors, like your internal auditors, and then also engage your external auditors to continuously audit and ensure it adheres to the global best practices. And other important point which you also mentioned about the importance of continuously monitoring the performance of API. Because some of these APIs communicate or transmit or transfer sensitive information. Apart from authentication and authorization, there are data which is actually pulled or pushed from one system to the other. So how do you ensure security of the information which is being exchanged, right? So that is very important, and you very rightly highlighted, keep auditing enabled, so that you can verify. Right? Then you also mentioned the importance of monitoring, and you also linked to incident management, right? I mean, in our earlier episode, you spoke about monitoring, that you need to you have a team which continuously monitors the suspicious activities or behavior and take timely action. So in order to do that, and I think you need to also have a robust incident management program. Right? So anything else you would want to add to this before we bring this episode to a conclusion in terms of best practices
The
or
points
suggestions you want to give?
the points which I mentioned, I would like to in fact add. Probably I might have missed out the point. So you need to also do the rate limiting. If some organizations does not, so it is very important, so that will give you, if there is something is happening on your API, it will be at least stopped, by the your rate limiting mechanism. So this is also very important. And if the organization is capable enough to implement the WAF, will be a very best part. This solution should be in the application, because if you are exposing your application outside to the world, you should have the WAF in front of it, so that any anomaly attacks or something is happening on the application layer, it will be at least saved from the API point of view, right? And also one more important part: restrict the API from the sensitive data access. This is also very important. Do the limitations if there is not required. Don't do the give the privilege to the API, right? So these things are important. And as I mentioned, that always do the monitoring, and security audit testing should be always regularly to be done on the applications. It should be before going live and after live. This should be always there. It's not that you just go on live and then later on after some day you will do the testing. No, it should be in your practice, that embed your security testing during the development system itself, right? So these are things are very
So
important.
what you're saying is shift left. So your DevSecOps operations use shift left, so
Right.
that at the design stage, you identify the various testing criteria and you ensure that it's built into your process, so that by the
Exactly.
time it goes through your quality check and into production, that you have a good secure API which gets promoted to the
Exactly.
production platform. So, Nishant, thank you so much for sharing your insight. So,
Yep.
just to recap for the viewers, always look at identify what is the asset that you need to protect, identify the controls you want to implement to prevent, identify the controls which you want to ensure that you have in case if the controls are effective or not, you need to be able to detect. And once you detect, you need to have a process to manage your response and remediation. So always think through that process and build your security controls into your processes.
Exactly.
So Nishant, I'm not going to let you go that easily. So I'm going to get you in to talk about another breach in the next episode, where again we will talk about one specific issue and then we will talk about the best practices around that. Thank you, Nishant, for taking time and sharing
Thank
your
you.
wealth of experience.